G'day, Alistair here, and in this video we're going to look at ripping DVDs. So that is transcoding the DVDs into another format that makes it easier to play on other devices, because currently a DVD such as this you can only play in a DVD player. So you need a computer with a DVD drive or a traditional DVD player that you plug into a TV or screen of some kind. So what I have here is a number of machines all loaded up with DVD drives, but we're just going to look at this one, which has got 4 drives in it. They're all just DVD drives, and we're going to look at ripping DVDs in bulk rather than the traditional one at a time. So if, say, I had a large collection of DVDs, hypothetically, that I wanted to convert to H264, doing that, had hundreds or thousands of them, doing that with a single DVD drive would be incredibly painful. It would just take forever. 'Cause it takes between 10 minutes and half an hour to rip a DVD, depending on the drive and the DVD and how scratched it is and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to use this machine. We're going to do 4 at once, and then we'll convert those DVDs to H264. And so I have 4 DVDs here that I have purchased secondhand for about $2 each, or two New Zealand dollars, so about, I don't know, $1.30 US, something like that each. Oh, in fact, that was $3. That's $2 US, approximately, or just under. So we're going to throw those in the machine and convert them to H264. And H264 is a common video format that most devices, phones, tablets, desktops, or your laptops, whatever, are able to play. So yeah, and then we're going. I use a server called Jellyfin for putting a lot of my videos into, and that kind of gives me sort of a private Netflix for my video content. So we're going to do some screen sharing, and we will then put the DVDs in the machine. So let's go do that. So here we have the desktop of the machine that we're going to do the ripping on. It's got the 4 drives in it. Now, there are 2 pieces of software I generally use. I use AnyDVD, which I purchased years and years ago, before Foxit acquired it. And we see there are 4 drives in the machine. I generally start the top drive is R, and then S, T, and U for the subsequent ones. Sometimes I might have an external drive, which maybe that's E. They kind of sit on top, so there might be E and F or something like that if there's two external drives. So when you've got lots of drives, you need a system for keeping track of which DVD is in which drive and what you're ripping and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to leave that down there. Now, the AnyDVD does the decryption of the DVDs. It kind of does it in the background. Most DVDs have encryption called CSS, and what happens is it decrypts it on the fly in the background, so it makes the DVDs look like they have no encryption at all to other software. Now, I'm going to convert the DVDs to an ISO, and I can do that with CDBurnerXP. And I'll need to load up an instance for each of the drives, and I'm going to go grab or copy disk, and the first one will be R, and I'm going to want to rip to a hard drive, and I'm just going to quickly start up 4 copies. So start with R, S, T, and U. And we're going to rip to the hard drive. See, it's already got some DVDs in there. Okay, now what you want to do is start the CDBurnerXP before you put the disks in, because if you start it up with the disks in the drive, each copy is going to want to scan each of the drives, and it's quite slow when you got 4 copies of a piece of software trying to access the same data on the same drive. Yes, DVD drives or CDs, optical media in general, are not designed to have multiple readers running at the same time. So the next step is to put the discs in the drive, which I am going to do now. So I'm going to take my DVDs, I'm going to open up all these drives, and just in order, I'm going to stick them in. In fact, I won't push them in just yet. Disc 1. Oh, and that bottom one is stuck. There we go. Sometimes I need to get the paper clip out to be able to get a disc in that one. So that is all the discs in the drives, and I'm just going to slide them all shut like so, and I've kept the order of the DVDs that I've inserted into the machine. So AnyDVD is just scanning the discs at the moment. Now what I want to do is I'm going to open up a browser. I'm going to mention MakeMKV shortly. It's going to go to imdb.com, and so I'm just going to look up the name of the movie and copy and paste it so we get the right spelling. So that goes in the first one, and I want the year, which was 2016, and .iso on the end. And we can see that AnyDVD has it's having problems with the S drive, but I might just be able to eject that and put it back in. Sometimes not. Some drives are better than others at reading discs. Well, that didn't look good. It was still spinning when it ejected it. So the disc itself looks fine. There's no scratches or anything like that on it. So I'm just going to try and reinsert it. And if it doesn't work, we'll just not rip Batman Begins. And we'll just do the 3. So I'm just going to quickly do the other videos. Okay, and once we have all of that done, we can start ripping them all. In fact, I could have done them one at a time as we were getting started. Okay, and that S drive. So we're going to not do Batman Begins effectively. We'll just do these 3. And we'll leave those to rip, and perhaps in about half an hour's time. Looks like this one will be pretty quick, done in 10 minutes. But we'll come back and we'll do the next step. But just while these are ripping, I will mention MakeMKV. If you are looking for just an all-in-one solution for ripping DVDs, this is quite useful. I'm wanting to preserve the ISO, so archive that off as well, just for later referencing special features or something like that. But if you only want the movie off the DVD, MakeMKV is good. So you basically use that. It creates a file, basically a raw file of the movie, and then which is in MPEG format, MPEG-2, and then you can re-encode that in H264, which is what we'll be doing later. So, but yeah, I'm using the CDBurnerXP, which is free for ripping in the whole DVD as an ISO. So I've ejected all the discs, and I might just take this and try it in this drive, because I can't see any reason why that's a problem. There's no scratches or anything. I think this top drive is a better one for ripping. In fact, I think maybe the bottom one's even better because it's a light-on drive, and they tend to be quite good. In fact, let's put it in the bottom. So I'm just going to go OK to all of these, and we can see that our Batman Begins has been recognized in the U drive. So I'm just going to take that and throw that there and go copy. And I'll let that copy, and that seems to be working just fine. So I've definitely found these light-on drives to be quite good at ripping DVDs. So if you acquire those, if you're doing large quantities. Now, in terms of getting DVD drives, you can buy them off eBay, or here in New Zealand it's Trade Me, because eBay would be in New Zealand if they were really good. But yeah, Trade Me is our sort of used online marketplace. And if you've got a computer recycler near you, there might be lots available. They're not tend to be recycled as frequently. I acquired most of my drives quite a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago, and maybe even a little bit longer. But at the time, there was probably there were hundreds of thousands of DVD drives. When I went there, they had a box probably more than a cubic meter, quite a lot, but more than a cubic meter, probably 1.5 meters on a side. Very very large number of used DVDs. Anyway, we'll leave that to finish ripping, and back shortly. So this is all completed just fine. So we can go to Explorer here. Now, I could do the encoding on this machine, but it's not the fastest of computers. It used to be an i3, but I found an i7. Let's go CPU. So it's a quad-core second generation i7, so it's pretty ancient, but it would be fast enough to encode. I mean, if you're only doing 4 movies, if you're doing 100, you'd want to do it on another machine, and we're going to do it on my Ryzen 9. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of these and copy them and paste them across the network. And for some reason, the copying across the network is really slow. I haven't actually worked this out yet, but it's only 9 minutes, so I will not worry about that. And once that's done, we will go to my main machine and we'll encode the files with handbrake. So to re-encode our videos, to make them a lot smaller, so on the DVD they're encoded in MPEG-2, which is quite a large format, probably between 4 and 8 gigabytes for the file, and we can encode that with handbrake, maybe get somewhere between 500 megabytes and 2 gigabytes, something along that range. So you might get a sort of 4:1 compression by going to H264. You can also go to H265, which is even more compression, but it is not as well supported. So download handbrake, and I have it already running. And so I start by dragging and dropping the first video, and we see it's got one title. Now, that's probably not actually the case, because if I go into Tools, Preferences, and in Advanced, I have said ignore anything that's less than 600 seconds, so 10 minutes. So it just means that I can, there's often a great many very short bits of video on DVDs, and this will just ignore most of them. There's other options if we want to output the files and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is, first off, if we go to video, we might want to change the quality. And so actually 22 is probably fine. For a DVD, you can go with Blu-rays, you can go for less because it's a higher resolution, and you don't tend to notice the artifacts as much. Now, audio, this is converting 5.1 down to stereo. I want to might actually make that to be 5.1 and set to 384 kbit. Now, what you can do is you can set up, in fact, what I'll do is I'll go and select my LS3 profile, and in the audio, you can have your selection behavior, and I'm defaulting, to find the 5.1 audio and encode it in 5.1, where, the first one that it finds, which is usually English, but not always. And we can see I can add a new track, and there's a Dutch version, so we could add German as well. if we wanted to. And this is by default encoding that in Dolby Pro Logic. The other thing you might want to adjust is subtitles, and I usually grab all the subtitles that are available, just because they're small, so it's not a big deal. Doesn't make much difference to the file, and it's handy if they're there. And so on the summary page, we can scroll through and just check that the video is all correct. One thing I do is I have conservative cropping. You could go automatic, and basically it's chop the top 74 pixels and bottom 74 pixels because it's all black through the video. So if I set cropping to none, we see we've got these black bars top and bottom, which we don't need to encode. So I can set that to automatic. And once you've got this set up, every new file you load in, it'll use the same preferences. So, and there's chapters as well, and you could potentially name them, but too much effort. So once you have got all your settings how you want, you can start encoding it straight away. But what I tend to do is I go add to queue. Now there's a bunch of options. I've added selection in here as an option. If you are encoding TV series, there are multiple episodes per disc, and so having add selection is quite handy because you can then add all 5 episodes, which would appear that each episode would appear as a track in here, and there's often a combined version of it. So there'll be, you might have 4 half-hour episodes and a 2-hour combined version of it, and you just do the 4 half-hour episodes and ignore the combined version. Anyway, I'm rambling a bit, so let's go add to queue, and then we get open and drag that in, and we see we've got a couple of special features that are longer than 10 minutes. So for instance, that one, looks like a bunch of interviews and things, and it's got different audio, so it's only got stereo, and you wouldn't want to encode the audio at 384 kbit for stereo. Drop that down to 160, and then I can go add to queue if I wanted that, or if I only want the main feature, that's all perfect. Add to queue, and then I can grab the next one, which I think I can just drag onto, yeah, somewhere in here. I can just drag in, and it'll open it. And we've got 2 things here. This one is only in stereo, so I can set it to 160, add to queue, and then open. Grab that English 5.1. So usually it's a good idea to check the language, because quite often it might grab the wrong one. I've had a few come ripping in German that I didn't notice. I had to re-encode them, but that's right. I generally keep the ISOs around for that purpose. And these others might just be a stereo version and a director's commentary. Often it'll tell you what they are as well, rather than just the language. But yeah, I can go add to queue there, and then we can view our queue. We've got the four things, and I can then go start queue, and that will start encoding. And it does a 2-pass. It does a subtitle scan, and then does the actual encoding. So the subtitle scan is just a quick look through to make sure there are no subtitles in there. I'll make sure, not exactly sure what it's doing, but something along those lines. And then once that's done, it will start the actual encoding. Now, the other thing you might want to fiddle with is how fast you want to do it. I've got it set to slow. Sometimes I go slower or slowest, or very slow. Probably don't want to do it at that speed. The slower you do it, the better quality encode you're going to get. And as you can see, I'm encoding at sort of 250 frames a second. If we fire up Task Manager, look at the CPU, we can see all the CPUs, all the cores, working reasonably hard. So it's not getting quite to 100%, so we're at 85%. So occasionally I might have 2 copies of HandBreak going, and that will allow the CPU to go all the way up to 100% by encoding across the 2 of them. But HandBreak's reasonably efficient. If you've got more cores, it gets harder and harder to spread the load across more and more cores. So once that's done, we'll have a video, in fact, and then I'll just rename them to remove the -1 or whatever. I might have encoded some bonus features and things like that, which I'll want to do separately. So that's all I'm going to cover in this video. I might do another video on Jellyfin. This is my preferred naming scheme, and it's preferred by Jellyfin actually. So you've got the title of the movie, and it's good to look it up in IMDb just to make sure that the title on the box is the same as the one that's in the database, and have the year, because you might have multiple movies with the same name. In fact, I think there were 3 versions of Journey to the Center of the Earth in 2014 or whatever year it was. So 2 English ones and a French one or something like that. It was quite bizarre. So you might have to further disambiguate within Jellyfin to specify what version potentially of the movie it is. Now, TV series, they're named differently. I could do a separate video on that if there is any interest. But yeah, this is probably enough. And yeah, I can see that the fans on my computer have ramped up. It's going to be generating quite a lot more heat. So we're up sort of, yeah, almost 400 frames a second, averaging. So it depends on the video as to how long it's going to take. But yeah, it might be 10 minutes of video. If you've got 100 to do, then they can take quite a long time, and you might want to distribute that across multiple machines, particularly if you've got a slower machine. And I will briefly mention let's bring this back. So let's go another time for the update. So this was originally a Core i3, and I used it quite a lot as a Core i3. You do not need a fast machine to do ripping. It's only the encoding that is computationally intensive. What you do need is, so I've got 4 drives in this machine. Originally, it had a mechanical drive in there. It's got an SSD currently, so I could probably rip a lot more than 4 DVDs at once to an SSD, but to a mechanical drive, sort of 4 to 6 drives is probably about the limit. They can typically maybe 20 megabytes a second or something like that, and that's multiple streams going to the hard drive. And so a typical mechanical hard drive, you might be able to get 100 megabytes a second write speed, maybe 150 along those lines. And the more drives you have ripping at once, the more the drive heads have got to bounce around to find places to put your bits of file. But 4 drives per machine is reasonable. Also 6 is also not too bad. That's kind of the most I've done. And beyond that, it becomes too hard to track what disk is in what drive. And so I have 3 machines. There's about 15 drives in total. And yeah, maybe it takes 20 minutes a disk, and you can do the math on how long it takes. If your collection's 1,000 DVDs, it's still quite a large investment in time and swapping disks in and out. That is probably the most time-consuming thing. So what I generally do is I'd load up all the drives, get them ripping, and then walk away and come back at some later date, 40 minutes later or something like that when they're all done, and then repeat the process. So there's, it takes me 10 or 15 minutes to load up the drives and then leave them for 40 minutes and go do another task. And yeah, in that way you can get through a large collection of DVDs in, well, it still takes a while. But and if you wanted to just do it continuously, maybe you have 5 machines, 5 disks in each, and swap them in and out and listen to a podcast or something like that, or watch a TV show or a movie or something like that you've ripped. It is also definitely worth double checking, playing a little section of the movie to make sure that you've got the right language and it's encoded correctly and what have you. Minimize that. So if we have a look at our queue, yeah, we're still on Batman Begins, and it's got 4 minutes to go, so I won't bother hanging around. But that file will probably be about a gigabyte in size, thereabouts, down from say 7.2 gigabytes. Although there's probably some special features in there as well. So the movie itself might be 6 gig or something as MPEG 2. Okay, so I will stop there. I've rambled on long enough. I hope you've found this video useful. If you do, thumbs up, subscribe, like, and leave a comment if you'd like to see more videos on sort of video encoding and what have you, or doing TV series or Blu-rays. So I'll see you in the next video.